Welcome back. In a ruling handed down yesterday, the top court in Mozambique has confirmed Daniel Chapo as the next president, but revised his margin of victory, bringing his vote down from 70% to 75%. The decision, however, has done little to the growing unrest, with opposition leader Nhachote, who claims he was the true victor, warning of further chaos. Protests have turned deadly, with at least 110 lives that have been lost in the wake of the election results. For more on this, let's now speak to Nhachote, who is from the Center for Investigative Journalism, joining us from Mozambique. Luis, a very good morning to you. Thank you so much for making time for us this morning. Before we go into the court judgment or the judgment by the Constitutional Council, tell us about what the situation is like currently in the country. Yesterday we heard of a sporadic protest action that was taking place, but what is it like?
Good morning, and once again, thanks for having me on this program. We still have ongoing arrests. I think this time could be more worse than the first steps of the demonstrated calling by the opposition candidate, Nhachote, because he told that he will give the instruction for the next step, but yesterday he communicated in our talk lives via Facebook and YouTube, and then 2 hours before the Constitutional Court announced the official results, which he talks first, and he said the people has to wait for the next instruction. But what we saw after the end of the day is that the people take their own actions, especially robbing, assaults, and we have lots of damage across the country. So now we this morning we are trying to make some accountability what's really happening across all over the country. But the news that we got until now, they're not good.
What do you mean they are not good? What are they telling you?
They're burning several shops, banks, other people was killed after that. 130 people that you mentioned. I think we have another people was killed last night, especially in Zambeza province, in Nhachote, and also in Sofala was the quiet part of the country since the announcement of the results.
Yeah, and has there been any responses yet from law enforcement? Because remember, after the Electoral Commission declared the results, there was a decision that was taken, or a threat at least that was made, that there would be soldiers that would be deployed. I don't know if that was eventually followed through on, but we know of the police officers that were deployed and ending up with some of the protesters being killed.
Yesterday, few hours before the announcement of the result, the state put troops on the streets in order to control or to avoid the people coming from suburbs enter for the center of the town, because that is the border which is critical since the arrest or since the announcement of those results, because the people who are living in suburbs, the next door is the main city, especially in Maputo capital. So since yesterday, we saw lots of deployment of soldiers over the Maputo city, but outside of Maputo, we saw that the people take their own decision. For example, there is a critical district called Smanyisa, who especially make border with Maracanã, who wants to get in the capital or out of Maputo capital to the rest of the country. So they have blocked the roads, the main road. So since the 5 o'clock, they say they was expecting for the results. So no transport, no vehicle was allowed to do their journey.
Yeah. And then the question, I guess, that would follow is, does it seem as though that this tension would be able to be quelled, or do you foresee a possibility of an escalation of the violence?
Since all the action called by the guy of the opposition, so the people was foreign part of them. So now, after the top court make reaffirming with small changes of results, So the people, I think most of them are waiting for the announcements for the step that he calls that's calls V8 turbo. So after the national talk, so we will be more clear. So what's coming next?
Okay, let's now deal with the question about the Constitutional Council and how they've arrived at the decision. One of the parts that they stress is they for instance, make reference to prosecution, that some matters have been referred to the Public Prosecutor's Office to do a follow-up on some of the irregularities, but go on to say, however, though, they do not constitute sufficient reasons to invalidate the elections, even though, if you look, for instance, at Daniel Chapo's victory, that victory and the margin of that victory has been revised down from 71% to 65.17%.
It was like the last year, we are still facing a serious problem because the National Electoral Commission is like the Constitutional Commission. They have a composition on basic on the political sharing. So, according with the representation on parliament. So we have people from Frelimo in that constitutional court, elected or nominated by the ruling party. We also have one judge, now it's one judge, that was retired from Renam. So the body who still decides this election, that's what becomes a biggest problem, is that because of that political commission. So it's more political, less technical bodies to decide the election. Last year in November, during the municipal election, somebody did the same exercise who belongs to the National Electoral Commission to revise the ballot papers, and they saw the problems here and them, and they decide in their own room. So what's happening? They criticize the Electoral Commission for not doing well their work. So until we have an independent body who organize the election, we will still face these kind of problems.
Yeah. And do we know whether the regional bodies will be intervening, like, for instance, SADC, which had said that they will be looking at what the Constitutional Council rules, and, of course, in the same breath, also respecting the sovereignty of Mozambique, but they, too, send electoral observers to observe the elections?
The environment of this election was completely undermining since the beginning. So the big expectation, especially for civil society, after the chaos started, after the National Electoral announced the result, was to them to cancellate this election, invalidate this election. It was more sensitive especially because of the number of the people who died. We will have thousands of reporters from observers, SADC, African Union, Commonwealth, but nothing has changed. The last word was telling yesterday by the Constitutional Council.